Y'all good? My favorite thing is about 10 seconds ago, somebody said, "What up, peanut butter lover?" I was like, that's my girl right there. That's amazing. All right, real quick. My name's Garrett, and if you don't know me, I cannot wait to get to know you. And we're gonna have fun tonight. We're gonna talk for a little bit, but I want us to understand something real fast. I got the mic, you don't, all right? So let's kind of go under that assumption right now, because I want to tell you a little bit about myself, and I've got something that God wants to say to you. So if you got a friend next to you right now who's kind of being distracting, just look at him, tap him on the shoulder real gently, and be like, "Hey, God wants to say something to you right now." So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Garrett, and I wanna introduce you guys to my family. This is my wife, Amy. Everybody say, "Aw, Amy." She is beautiful, and I love her so much. We've been married for 8.5 years. We have 3 wonderful boys, yeah. We have 3 boys. This is our oldest, Beckett. And you may have seen him earlier. He was in pajamas. Yep, that was him. And then we have our middle one, Layton. And I know, you guys think, you guys have no idea what's about to come, because here's our 6-month-old, Brooks. Exactly. He is amazing. We moved here from Kentucky. And so who's been to Kentucky before? Okay, I want to tell you a little bit of something about me, because being from Kentucky, I'm a little weird. And so I would prefer to be barefoot pretty much all the time. That's the thing about Kentucky. I don't know why. I'd prefer to be barefoot. In fact, I would take my shoes off, but that'd be weird. So I'm not going to. I say some words very, I think it's accurate, but they make fun of me in the back. Bailey and some of the others make fun of me. So instead of saying oil, I say ol. So like, I'm gonna put some oil in my car. Is that weird? Yeah, thank you. Say thank you. He's like, no, that's normal. I say it all the time. And then I say, instead of the word pecan, my granddaddy had a pecan farm. And so I grew up eating pecans, and that's what I do. And then I want to introduce you guys, this is my favorite soda. It is called Ale 8. Do we have any ginger ale lovers in the room? So I really like ginger ale. Here, come, you really like ginger ale?
I love ginger ale.
You like ginger ale? Here, come here. Hey, calm down, people. No, I'm joking. All right. Well, no, seriously, but no. Anyway, so this is Ale 8. Enjoy it. It's a glass bottle. Take it home and drink it there. Don't drink it now. It is really good. It has a lot of caffeine. So when your parents are like, "Why are you so hopped up on sugar and caffeine?" Don't tell them it was from Pastor Garrett. And so, like they said earlier, I love sports. I grew up playing golf and baseball. I got to play baseball in college. And my favorite sport is hockey. I play hockey even to this day. I played hockey this past Monday night. I was in marching band, and I was in band. And so I'm a percussionist. I've done that for a long time. And also, that's a little bit about me. I would love to get to know you a little bit more. But tonight we're going to continue our series called Look Out. Last week, hey guys. Thank you. Last week, we started our series called Look Out. And this week, we're going to look at something very important, because last week we said, when you see an injustice, and we talked about injustice, and that's a big word, and we're going to continue talking a little bit about that. But when you see an injustice, do what you can to help was our bottom line last week. And this week, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at injustice in a very different way. And so when I say injustice, everybody say injustice. All right, everybody say injustice. Awesome. When I say injustice, here's what I mean. It is something or someone that is treated unfairly or receives an undeserved outcome. So somebody who's treated unfairly. Who here likes to be treated unfairly? You like to be treated unfairly. Okay, liar. Who here, but here's the question. Who here has ever been treated unfairly? Yeah, I would say most of us have been treated unfairly at some point. I got my first little taste of injustice when I was growing up. I have a younger sister named Kelsey. She's 6 years younger than me. Any older brothers in the room? Yeah, so my younger sister, she would introduce me to injustice in a very personal way. Anytime she did not like me or anytime she wanted to be mad at me, she would just start crying, and my parents would get me in trouble, or I would get in trouble with my parents. I bet there are no younger sisters who have ever done that to their older brothers in here. Exactly. Younger sisters, we love you guys, but y'all are mean sometimes. And it's okay, because older brothers, older siblings, we love you guys too, but sometimes we're mean, and that happens. And so we need to look at that maybe a little bit differently. Maybe you've experienced injustice in a different way. Maybe you've experienced injustice in a different way. Maybe you've experienced injustice in a way where at school, you look at somebody and maybe you work really, really, really hard to make good grades, and you look at somebody and they're like, they don't have to work at all, and they just go and they get hundreds on everybody. Anybody know somebody like that? It's like, that's not fair, right? And maybe you're sitting here and you play sports, or you're in band or something, and you look at somebody who never goes to practice, or they skip, or they slack off, and they're naturally good at stuff, and they're really good, and then you're sitting here like, you work really, really hard, you're running the sprints all the way through, you're doing all these things, and then you get benched. That's not fair. And sometimes in life, we look at things that are unfair, but when something unfair happens to us, it doesn't feel good. And that's true. Even for us in middle school, when something unfair happens to us, it does not feel good. And when we are judged, it can make us feel bad about who we are. It can make us feel bad about the things we like, or even the choices that we made. So I want to ask you this question. Who here has ever treated someone unfairly or judged someone? Yeah. And for those of you guys who aren't raising your hands, I'm wondering if you're paying attention, or maybe if you're just lying. And I'm not trying to say that in a mean way, because I feel like every single one of us in here, we've done that. We've treated somebody unfairly. We've judged somebody. And when I say judgment, I want us to think about something, because sometimes it's okay to judge. Judge does not mean a bad thing all the time, because we judge things all the time. We want to make sure that when we're doing something, it's natural for us to judge things. And it can even be a good thing, because we need to be able to understand and to judge whether something is good or bad. We need to be able to judge whether something is right or wrong, right? So we need to do that. But when I'm saying judgment in maybe the way that we think about being judged is when we judge somebody and it becomes something negative. When we do something in a negative way, when we judge other people in a negative way, that's when we cause harm to someone else. And that's when injustice takes place. You see, the problem comes when we understand this, and if I'm honest, I can easily miss this in my life. I think about this in my life, and I miss out on injustice sometimes because I'm too busy worried about how other people are treating me, and I'm not worried about on how I'm treating other people. And so maybe if we're honest, when it comes to injustice, we can be a little bit hypocritical. Yeah. You feel that? We get quiet, and we realize that's probably a little bit true. Because nobody in here, we don't want to be treated unfairly, but we also treat people unfairly sometimes. And so when we look at this, we sometimes even hold other people to a standard of right and wrong that we don't apply to ourselves. When we make fun of other people, when we judge people in a negative way, when we do things that we condemn other people for doing, we're all guilty of looking at and pointing out the injustice in other people. But you know what they say when you're pointing a finger at somebody, you have how many pointing back at you? Exactly. And so before we look out for injustice around us, don't miss this. Before we look out at the injustice around us, we have to look at the injustice inside of us. And when I think about this, maybe you're not convinced. Maybe you're like, I don't believe I've ever done anything unjust. Maybe these are all little things. Maybe my actions are justified. But I want us to look in the Bible. In the Bible, there is a guy named Jesus. You guys have probably heard about him. If not, I can't wait for you to hear about him. Jesus did something really cool. In one of the biographies about Jesus' life, the book of Matthew, Jesus is talking and giving this really, really big sermon and this really big message, kind of like what I'm doing, except a lot better and a lot longer and a lot crazier. And so he says in Matthew 5, verse 21, he says, "You have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment." Who in here has ever committed murder? Don't raise your hands. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't raise your hands. That's bad. Well, you like to joke, but look at what he says in verse 22. Hear this. But I say to you, this is Jesus talking to you, talking to me. But I say to you, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Did you hear that? If you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. Things got real when Jesus is talking. Because Jesus came to change the status quo of what we think is right and wrong. We think, oh, I've never killed anybody. But Jesus is saying what goes on in our heart is just as important as the things we do. He's saying what's in our heart matters just as much as to God as our actions do. He goes on to say in chapter 7, verses 1 and 2, he says, do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you are using in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. We've heard this, and we like to say, don't judge me. If you judge me, then you're going to be judged. But what happens when it's turned on us? Because Jesus goes on and says in verse 3, and why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite! First get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. He goes on and talks about some really cool things. But I want you to hear this. Hypocrite. First get rid of the log in your own eye, then you'll see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. The truth is, we can't solve a problem we're contributing to. We can't solve a problem we're contributing to. And we can't solve the problem of injustice in the world until we deal with the injustice in our own hearts. And so I need somebody real fast. This is not going to be crazy, but I need one person real fast. One person, come up here real fast. Hop up. All right. Yep. Thanks, Martin. Hey, so I'm going to put these on your face real fast. So I'm going to put these on your face. So turn around. And I'm going to do this quickly. No. I just want you guys to be quiet real fast and realize what's going on. I want you to listen. Check this out.
He's a rainbow. Taste the rainbow. Martin, are you a new Skittle? Taste the rainbow. Skittle. That's a Skittle. The man is color. Feel the rainbow. Taste the rainbow. Feel the rainbow.
You see what a lot of us do? What a lot of us do, kind of like what this verse is saying. He's talking about logs and things like that. But think of it like a bandana. A lot of us, we walk around with our eyes completely covered. And yet we look and we can see just a little bit. And so we're really quick to call out what other people do in their lives, but we're not quick to realize that our eyes are completely blinded. I mean, think about this. You know, if we're thinking about and we're looking at the injustice in our lives, have you ever been quick to judge somebody? Have you ever been quick to do that? Have you ever stood up for somebody who is being bullied? And have you potentially ever been the person who is bullying? Or maybe you've been the person who just stands by and watches it happen. You know, when I think about some other things, are you somebody who looks at a person and you judge them maybe by the color of their skin? Hey, I understand that we're in middle school, but we're not in elementary school anymore. All right? So we can talk about these things and be real. And we can be mature about it. Because this happens. Maybe we look at a person and we say, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to tell you whether or not you matter based upon what I see. That's injustice. Maybe we're sitting here and we're saying, I don't want to be judged by how people see me. Maybe on my social media, on my Instagram or my TikTok or my Snapchat or whatever. And maybe we're sitting here and no, be real. Maybe we're saying, I don't want people to judge me by the number of likes that I have, but I'm quickly gonna judge a person based upon the number of likes that they have. Maybe you're sitting here and you're saying, I want people to see me in the value that I have because I am a person who is loved by God, and yet you're quick to say, I don't necessarily see value in another person. And so real quickly, we see that there are things that are distracting us. There are things that are getting and covering our view of the injustice in our lives. Thank you, Martin. The point of this is not to make ourselves feel bad. That's not the point of this. But the point of this is before you look out for injustice around you, you have to look for injustice inside of you. We have to be able to identify the things that are covering our eyes. And so maybe for you, the first step in that means that you ask God to reveal those to you. You say, God, show me the things that I'm not seeing. Show me what's in my eye. Show me what's in my eye first that's causing injustice. Maybe your step tonight is, God, help me to not only identify this, but to do something about it. Maybe your step is, God, help me change. A better way to say that is, God, would you change my heart so that you can also change my actions? You see, we all have a step that we can take in this. When it comes to injustice, it's not something that's far off, it's something that's it's inside of us. And so as we wrap up, here's the thing. Whatever it is, ask God to help you see and then do something about the injustice in you. Because God's love for all is so personal. It says in Romans 5:8 that God demonstrated his love for you, for me, for every single person, that while we were still sinners, while injustice was ruling all over us, Jesus Christ still died for you and me. That's the truth of of how much God loves us and his love for you and me. And the thing is, as we pay attention to the injustice inside of us, we have to realize we can't fix a problem outside of ourselves and ignore the problem inside of ourselves. Because remember, before you look at injustice around you, look at the injustice that's inside of you.